This video is sponsored by Crimson Manifesto, Knuckles OX, and Jopi. Our story resumes within the first year of training to prepare for the androids, as the Son household now has to come back together after Goku's absence, while now preparing for this new looming threat. As such, things obviously come to a head between Goku and Chi-Chi, but Pigero is able to coach Gohan through using the kid card to get Goku off the hook lightly, since the two also plan to use this moment of Chi-Chi's weakness to wager their own intentions for this first year of their training, by undertaking a worldwide trip the likes of which Goku and the Dragon Team used to go on, wanting to spend the time both exploring and honing their own skills, meeting up with fellow Z-Fighters for joint training, and after some discussion on the down low between just the members of the Demon School, seeing what leads they can pick up on Gero's lab in this time as well. The real selling point being this is far less risky than Vegeta's proposed trip to Yardrat, or even the prior trip to Namek had been, since now the boys are more than powerful enough to fly home in short order. Chi-Chi is quickly outvoted on this idea, but she lays down conditions and terms for the trip, one being the continuation of their studies, as well as staying safe and in frequent contact since both are still young. Pigero seems to bristle, or want to, against this a bit, but agrees mostly because Gohan's tagging along, since if not, he could certainly run wild and do whatever he liked like he used to, like he had planned to before Gohan roped him into all this. But at the same time, he is also kind of flattered by Chi-Chi's entrusting him with Gohan's safety. After Goku and Chi-Chi settle their argument with heavy innuendos pointing towards Pigero and Gohan's interference causing an earlier conception for another Son sibling, Chi-Chi preps the boys with books and provisions, while Goku and Piccolo set about whipping the pair into shape for a trip like this. As the three Demon School members are well accustomed to joint training and far stronger now, they're able to impress Goku with their coordination, and even get him to go all out and use his own Super Saiyan power against them. In light of this, after the boys' departure, Piccolo suggests having another person take up the pair's spot from time to time. Though sensing his lingering wariness towards Vegeta, Goku sagely suggests for that matter, it may be worth it to visit all their allies after Gohan and Pigero finish their own rounds, citing how Piccolo as he is now is a perfect example of the magic that duo can bring about. And so, moved by this shared sentiment, the duo redouble their effort in training to not be passed up by the next generation, while also scheming up a few plans to maximize this first year of training and effectiveness. And so, Gohan and Pigero begin gallivanting across the earth and training together, allowing both some more time as students under other characters, including ones they have only really met in passing, such as Master Roshi, where upon reaching Kame House, they really do get to try out the training of the Turtle School and impress the Hermit himself, with Roshi taking great pleasure in helping the two to perfect their before now developing Kamehamehas, allowing them to study firsthand off the original, as well as showing their individual skills enough to receive special tutelage and techniques like the Sleepy Boy technique, which Gohan finds fun to pull pranks with during their brotherly spars, as it allows him to skip most of the violence and fighting, while Pigero takes a keen interest in the elemental key manipulation style of the Thundershock Surprise, quickly recognizing the principles behind it as similar to what he's been trying to develop for his own signature techniques. This stay at Kame House also allows them to reunite with the recently revived Krillin as well. After Pigero witnesses the power and skill he displays with his firing of the Kamehameha into the ocean training, he resolves that he wants a chance to face the other senior martial artists of their merry band, even citing Tien and Yamcha's great admiration of the younger monk that kept him entertained in their downtime on the way to and from Namek. More than flattered by this, Krillin urges them to hold their horses on that, since he has it on good authority they'll be having another get-together like they did during their prep for the Saiyan, so the kid may just get his wish. In consolation, he does try to teach the duo a few of his combos and evasive techniques. Moving on from Kame House, they eventually make rounds that see them running into and learning at least something from every one of the Dragon Team they meet up with, such as when Yajirobe teaches them proper swordsmanship just because, though partially inspired by Future Trunks, which in part was also inspired by Future Pigero using a sword. Still, this causes them to bum another one like the one Piccolo had given Gohan after returning to Mount Paozu shortly for his old one. Or when they meet up with the former members of the Crane School, and Gohan curiously asks Chaozu for a lesson to see if he can unlock his own psychic and telepathic abilities like Frieza and his dad had back on Namek, while Tien observes and praises Pigero's battle-forged mastery over the multiform technique during a spar using it. He also has the boys follow him to a village he is considering starting a dojo in, citing how having his potential and perception unlocked, teaching Pigero and now Gohan, has kind of enlightened him to how much good he could do by following in the steps of Master Roshi and Kami and training up new defenders, now equipped with the eye to spot potential and evil. He even goes on to share his vision with the group, thanks to Chaozu, all to point out the key of a first potential student he'd recently taken notice of following he and Chaozu. However, in light of all they currently have to prepare for, the Triclops states these are all questions for the future, as he sends the boys away with a tag team match to test what they have learned so far. Next, the duo spend a few weeks living with Yamcha and Puar, where the former bandit can teach Gohan his high-intensity ki control, as well as allowing them a stable enough home to cram in a good bit of the homework they've been assigned, with Yamcha acting well and keeping them on task enough to complete it, even as Pigero does his best to convince Gohan to do his for him, or at least let him copy his answers. This trip concludes in West City, as they reunite with the pregnant Bulma and, unfortunately, Vegeta. Whereupon hearing Vegeta is not only the father, but has also been communicating with his mercenary buddies up in space, Pigero takes personal offense, and jumps to the conclusion that the Saiyan must be a deadbeat dad, demanding Vegeta be responsible and keep his butt here on Earth for the sake of Bulma and his kid. And obviously not willing to be bossed around by these bratty upstarts, Vegeta answers this demand with the all-too-classic, "Make me," causing a fellow natural-born rebel and hothead like Pigero to explode and subsequently accept the prince's challenge, sounding to Gohan a lot more like his old street tough self as he calls for his little brother to help him beat some sense into this jerk, with the young hybrid not exactly wanting to, but also not wanting to leave Piggy alone to the wrath of the Saiyan prince. This causes Bulma to forbid this as a bad idea. She gives her appreciation for Pigero's concern, but she wants to kind of just wave it off. However, she's just as quickly rebuked by both Vegeta and Pigero simultaneously, with the two rushing back into Vegeta's gravity room, where Pigero all too foolishly agrees to fight the prideful warrior at 10 times Earth's gravity, since the normal G's were a bit too light for his taste, as he said. This hastens Gohan up, while Bulma makes her way to turn off the power to the room. Gohan joins the other two fighters. However, being used to gravity training, he doesn't instantly want to resort to Super Saiyan as the gravity increases, just as he joins the clash to compensate for an, as he expected, very sluggish and struggling Pigero, causing him to take point in the fight like he did with Frieza. As such, Gohan also doesn't feel compelled like Vegeta to prove himself without his transformation, and so shines in the room, which gives him an advantage to start pushing the prince back, whilst Pigero can at the very least back him, laying down cover fire and distraction techniques for extra openings. This all seems to be working well, as Vegeta similarly powers up into Super Saiyan, batting Gohan's charge away and deflecting Pigero's blast back at him before zipping over to the control console to increase gravity 5-fold more, boasting that he was still only warming up, as he laughs while Pigero is slammed into the floor and rendered immobilized, while also seeing Gohan's power rise with his anger at the dirty trick. Suddenly, the power to the room pops off, however, as Bulma succeeds finally, allowing the teenage fighter to make a final desperate blow for his own pride as he calls for Gohan to do the unreliable. The younger man snapping to the order the orphans used to follow to set up Pigero for his finishing flying kicks out of instinct, as he zips behind Vegeta and crashes into his back to shove him forward, giving him no way to resist as Pigero puts the rest of his power into a full-body charge using a tsunami slammer, seeing them collide head-on, and leaving everyone now flat on their backs and exhausted, ultimately finding themselves able to present an equally resolved front. Both the boys and Vegeta are finally willing to move past their bitter feud, at least for now, finding some common ground and wanting to prove themselves against the fate the future boy warned them of. To this end, for a while, Bulma and the Briefs even host the boys, partly to make sure Pigero was nursed completely back to health before he returns to Chi-Chi, as well as to give this new trio of training buddies the opportunity to continue sparring, learning, and growing from one another. Not really developing a true friendship, but genuine respect and camaraderie, as Vegeta coaches them up on a few things as well, contributing even his know-how as an old ruthless soldier to their repertoire, while seemingly taking some interest in Pigero's past use of dirty yet extremely unexpected tactics. And true to his anti-hero nature, he advises both boys not to be as soft-hearted as their parents, as to completely forget those techniques when in true life-risking battles, personally being able to cite their effectiveness against the strong. At the end of this first year, Goku and Piccolo end up hosting a similar tournament to the one Piccolo told him of between the Demon School and the students under Kami, with the top 4 spots quickly being distinguished by the likes of Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Gohan, while the Earthlings not pitted against them in their path to the top face off in actually meaningful squabbles with their own prize on the line. Pigero receiving a rather humbling defeat from Tien, who goes on to be taken down by Piccolo himself, after an incredibly impressive rematch. Meanwhile, Krillin is able to force Vegeta to show him respect, as his newly revealed Kaioken-fueled wiliness and determination to do his best against the man that nearly killed him for good see him force Vegeta into Super Saiyan before he can claim victory over the monk, reluctantly apologizing to him and the already defeated Chaozu in the process. Gohan thrives against Yamcha, but struggles against his dad. As to Goku's keen eye, it seems Gohan is still in the middle of amalgamating all the various fighting styles he's been studying over the year into something solid and all his own, while Goku simply welcomes him to this state of evolution with his martial arts that he's always kind of lived in, busting out the Warp Kamehameha as a bluff to move on to a finals match with Vegeta, one that the Saiyan Prince is just narrowly able to take, even if they're score a tad. This slight taste of victory even increases his desire for the Ardridian spirit control training he was denied. When the issue of leaving the planet unguarded for so long comes up, Vegeta has an easy fix for this: his henchmen, since they've simply been seizing up and disbanding the last of Frieza's operation, and supposedly began making deals with both the Galactic Gladiatorial promotion and the now thriving Galactic Patrol to gain more influence in the growing vacuum, since letting them crash on Earth to protect it and go through a little of their martial arts training couldn't hurt. This end, no one can say it's truly a bad idea. So in the end, Vegeta's peeps guard Earth and do some training under Roshi and Korn at the insistence of the Earthlings, as they had given them a tiny bit of training, and know many have potential that could be tapped into. And in return of that, they also mentioned that these teachers could be great references to cite their growth if they still desire to use the Dragon Balls to revive some of their allies, as with the likes of Birdo and Guldo, or Quitor's his best friend Apul. Meanwhile, the mainline Z fighters with Goku taking responsibility for their transportation, and also hanging back to watch Earth with the others, sees them undergo spirit control training, with each having varying successes in the training, as well as the different techniques that can be derived from it they decide to master. Speaking outside the story for a little bit, I'd like to try and explain my use of elemental attacks and techniques as a way to differentiate Pigero's fighting style from others, since he was bringing very little to the table otherwise. I'm completely aware he doesn't necessarily need to do anything all too special and flashy. However, I still wanted him to occupy some kind of niche, and I even have an idea that I think can tie it together with his backstory being tied to his orphan status coming from a natural disaster by the sea that took his parents. Still, you know how these things go with Dragon Ball stories, it always is a lot easier just to write about somebody blasting and punching somebody else, so if I do forget to use some of these abilities sometimes, do forgive me. So, in the spirit control training, I think Pigero finally comes to a conscious grasp of the skill he's been gaining and recognizes the ways he's learned to manipulate 4 core elements now, with the Thundershock Surprise directly teaching him how to convert his ki into electricity. Aside from this, he can manipulate the wind using his own speed, fire using friction and heat from his ki, and the very earth itself using his own strength, and maybe a little telekinesis if he can ever get the move down. So now as he gains a metaphysical understanding of his own spirit, and an appreciation for the meditation Piccolo tried to drill into him, he begins experimenting with shifting the nature of his ki to be more like a fluid to create a 5th element, that of water. Master Pibara is intrigued by the concept, but having no real experience with it informs that it will be something all the boys own, and thus can only help by guiding him in training his spirit. But before he can get too far into these musings, in the middle of this training, about 8 months or so, Vegeta's forces back on Earth send a distress call, informing that the Dragon Balls are seemingly being collected by an unknown group and that they are very powerful. This lures the mainline Z fighters back to Earth, and it's quickly realized that the balls are a decoy to lure them into fights, as multiple androids have been unleashed early at Dr. Gero's orders. Since he's currently ahead of schedule and has a good stockpile of manpower, this sees the Doctor choosing some of his older models he's been thinking of new uses for in androids 13, 14, and 15, as well as the Miracle experiment, which had quickly become his arguable favorite, with the spaceborne artificial humanoid being both effective, reasonable, and more than willing to indulge and share in his grudge, as well as the fact that he allows more buffers between himself and the recreations of his family members when possible. Hence his also giving this particular android, number 22, a special extra mission directly in regards to number 13, and with that, resorts to sending his troops out to attack the split-apart Z-Fighters with intentions to test the power of the Saiyans, as well as kill anyone weak enough to fall to their current power, thus seeing number 13 go directly after Goku as though it's independent and wily. However, this also means taking on Yamcha and Krillin as they've been searching in the nearby areas around him. At the same time, number 14 attacks Gohan, whom Pigero and Piccolo are also searching nearby, and come to the aid of. And finally, number 15 attacks Vegeta, who's accompanied by a reluctant Tien and Chaozu as they go to check on his men, with the mystery cyborg keeping a low profile and at first simply surveying all these individual battles by using his speed and lack of ki signature to stay under everyone's notice. However, as he's mostly just surveying number 14's battle, Gero actually has to order Android 22 not to get caught up in personal feuds, as he watches the battle through his eyes, seeing how intently he's staring down Pigero. After a tense silence, the cyber-enhanced boy quietly complies, making rounds to the other battle locations Gero's surveillance bugs are watching, and confirming the heroes have already grown beyond Gero's predictions. The fights are long and drawn out, with the Z-Fighters effectively weaker than the androids when fighting individually, but just able to edge out wins when working together as they've been getting more accustomed to in this timeline. This proving a necessity, as their opponents are simply too much stronger, faster, and durable than themselves due to their mechanical true android nature in regards to 14 and 15. But there was something cunning and devious about 13 that saw him toy with trying to kill Goku in clear showings of sadism and hatred far too complex for a machine. Seeing Krillin and Yamcha being forced to do all they can to keep 13 from several kill opportunities on the Saiyan, while also pulling on all they've picked up so far, as Krillin's Kaioken once again makes him more than meets the eye, and Yamcha even makes a breakthrough in his own spirit control training, managing to get himself and Goku out of the trucker had its cyborg's chokehold using the instant transmission, and just in time for Krillin to unleash a Kaioken Net Destructo disc. The red disc as a result takes off 13's arm as it soars past him, leaving him vulnerable as the Turtle School trio form up and use the opportunity to quickly unleash a Kamehameha that pushes him back even further, threatening to consume and even obliterate him as they all pour their power into it. However, before they can attain victory, something swoops in to push 13 out of the way, and simultaneously dives into and splits their blasted in half with an incredible amount of power, revealing itself to be a boy around Pigero's age, who suddenly blitzes and one-shots the 3 Turtle School fighters, downing them and buying an opening before telling 13 the bosses ordered them to pull out and retrieve 14 and 15's components. 13 is obviously unhappy with this, but knows he will need the extra power and likely a further upgrade to contest both the Saiyan and his annoying entourage, and especially if he wants a chance to surpass this brat and not be seen as obsolete in his father's eyes. So he complies with the new kid he spits is such a disgusting teacher's pet, coordinating with him to retrieve the components of 15 while leaving what's left of 14 to the kid. As they depart at high speed while giving off no sensible key, the 3 critically wounded martial artists they leave behind are obviously in shock and pain at the power on display, but Yamcha is dumbfounded for a whole nother reason, only being able to explain his shock by telling his friends he knows that kid while looking as if he'd seen a ghost. Meanwhile, after a similar reconciliation as was made with Gohan and Pigero, after Vegeta continues to display the changes Tien witnessed on their shared excursion to Namek, and at least respecting and valuing the lives of his allies, as he moves and fights with a sense of urgency for his men, seeing them as more than one-use tools to be thrown away when no longer convenient, as he goes on to both defend his defeated men from the diminutive Purple Droid, and even protects Chaozu of his own volition, subsequently teaming up with the little Esper to hurl a Ki Blast volley at 15 while Chaozu tries to hold him down. This ultimately becomes the way of things, with Vegeta eventually corralling 15 with the aid of Chaozu and some of the already defeated fighters on his team, until Android 15 is in perfect position to be flattened by a spirit control Kiko-Ho. However, just as everyone begins to let their guards down, they're blindsided by the armless 13, as he quickly lets out a raw wave of energy from his destroyed arms to blow the group back, before crouching down to pick up 15's last blink component with his teeth, only to go zooming off to who knows where, not even answering Vegeta's call of coward. Finally, against the unrelenting mechanical menace of number 14, the members of the Demon School team up in a far more honed way as they've been working as a unit from the start, with their quickly and cunningly guiding the massive gray man to a frozen tundra, and there they use his greater weight and speed to trick him into falling through the ice, where they keep him buried by knocking a couple mountains over, forming up as a trio and channeling power into their fingertips so that when the Metal Man inevitably breaks his way out of their trap, he is very easy pickings for a triple special beam cannon, the 3 drilling techniques combining to form a super beam that simply erases 14's torso, as well as an entire cone of space behind him as he falls defeated, while Piccolo quickly takes the opportunity to praise his students have come a really long way. However, things don't stay fun for long, as the mystery Android 22 again makes the play, erupting from the glacier behind the trio to get the jump on them, and allowing him to instantly clobber Son Gohan from his blind spot, knocking him out and capitalizing on the other two's care for the boy, to blast them both point blank as they try and catch and protect their friend. Regrouping to keep Gohan safe, Piccolo and Pigero team up and rush for a combo the Namekian and Goku invented known as the Dragon Tiger Whirlwind Dance, with their combined and synchronized flurry of attacks only succeeding in nudging the android's goggles up to reveal his face. Seeing this, Piccolo tries to continue the onslaught to make an opportunity to get Gohan and get him to some sensu beans, but it seems they've already lost, because for the first time ever, Piccolo sees the orphan boy hesitate, clearly shocked at the android's visage and simply stuttering the name Zeshin, only for the android to seemingly grow bloodlusted hearing the name, as he now comes at them far fiercer, thus forcing Piccolo to try and protect both his students as he did like against the Saiyans. However, it's just far too late for that, as a massive resistance gun, as Zeshin calls it, is enough to blow the entire demon school away and melt a great deal of the ice around them, seeing them all literally sinking to defeat against the weight of Zeshin's revenge, while Gero reminds them to finish the job and return for maintenance and upgrades. The now revealed Zeshin reluctantly complies, and retrieves what is left of Android 14, fleeing the area with a very irritating realization that this revenge was hardly satisfying. As the android departs, Piccolo unwraps the boys from his arms, and they rise to the surface, with him trying to wake both up. However, to both his and Gohan's horror, Pigero never does, with his body eventually disappearing to symbolize that he is left for the other world. But this is where we'll be leaving this timeline off for right now.
Hello people, I edited this video you're watching today, so if you like the style, come check me out at What If Daddy. I do what if videos, so after you're done with this wonderful video, come check me out.